North Carolina, South Carolina. That's the biggest game in my opinion. The best matchup of probably the day, honestly, but definitely of the nightcap there. North Carolina, South Carolina. This is a neutral site game. North Carolina is a 2.5-point favorite as it sits right now, and the over/under sits at 64.5. First of all, if you're looking for value on bets, South Carolina is a plus 115 on the money line. Okay, just going to throw that out there, and we'll talk more on these betting lines Friday, and we'll see how these things move as time goes on. But that's one I'm keeping my eye on right there, because at a 2.5-point favorite, this is basically a pick 'em, and they're giving you plus money there on the money line. So if I was looking for value, that's great value right there. Now, with all that being said, they got to go play the game, and we talked about on our injuries list some of the injuries that South Carolina is dealing with right now with Juice Wells. They got an offensive tackle that was going to be starting. He's out for the season. Trey Knox is hurt, and I don't expect him to be playing for this first game. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but they're saying Juice Wells should be ready, and it seems like he probably will play at least some. So is South Carolina going to have enough defense to slow this North Carolina offense down? What's your take on this, Mason?
So overall, I do think that South Carolina is just going to be a little bit better on defense than North Carolina, and I think that ends up being the reason that they do win this game. If this were a pick 'em, I'm still picking South Carolina. I think that is a good bet on the money line at plus 115. I'm staying away from the over under, and I would obviously take South Carolina in the points. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think that the South Carolina defense and defensive backs are going to make a little bit more of an impression than North Carolina's. I don't think that the Gamecocks are all that great on defense necessarily, but I think that North Carolina is probably really bad. I could see them making a step forward or taking a step forward from last season in year 2 under Gene Chizik, but ultimately, I think that what wins this game for South Carolina is their defense. And on offense, I think that they're both pretty electric already. If South Carolina is playing like they were at the end of last season, then under Spencer Rattler, then I think that they're as equally as potent of an offense as North Carolina, even with Drake May, who's obviously a much better quarterback than Spencer Rattler, but from a production standpoint, and playing within the system, he's really not that much better, I don't think. So I'll be anxious to see the box score at the end to compare the two and what they do, and look, Rattler's got to be taking it as a challenge and a test. Most competitors would, right? It's a lot of times you pin the two quarterbacks against each other like I just did, so he's got to be saying that and going, you know what, we're coming out of the draft together. Here's a chance for me to make some money. For anybody who's watching this game, any NFL teams that are going to go back and watch this game, I want to show them that I can hang with Drake May, and I can be a first round quarterback again, like everybody thought that I would be.
Yeah, and it took Spencer Rattler a little bit to get going last year, and I don't suspect that it'll take quite as long to get going. But with all that being said, North Carolina's offense, I think, is going to be really, really good this year. I think that it's probably in the first game of the year. I think it may end up being a little bit much for South Carolina. I know I just said that it's great value, and it is a good value to take them on the money line if you think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win. I think North Carolina wins this game. I think the offense is just too much. I mean, they've got about 5 running backs that are good, at least good, and a couple of them I'm thinking might be really good. But you bring in Devontae Walker from Kent State, who was really, really good receiver last year. Nate McCullum comes in from Georgia Tech, who was one of the more talented guys on the offense for Georgia Tech last year. You return all 3 of your tight ends. Lots of experience returning on the offensive line. These are just a lot of these things are things I can't say about South Carolina. And whereas North Carolina's defense was horrible last year and South Carolina was serviceable, I think that Carolina, I hope that they take a step up.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure that they will, but they stuck with Gene Chizik again for defensive coordinator this year. Defensive line is going to be an issue for them this year, and it's a depth issue. We could say that about probably at least 40% of college football. I mean, there's a deficiency at defensive line. These types of guys don't grow on trees, but I don't think that South Carolina is going to have an overly oppressive offensive line. So, with all that being said, I think North Carolina comes out with the win here. I think the offense is just too much. I could see them winning 35-28 or 42-35, something like that. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Should be very, very fun to watch. I can't wait to see Drake May. Obviously, he was one of the best players in college football, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best quarterbacks. He's just a highly competitive guy, really good kid, and can't wait to see him out there on the field again this year. And can't wait to see what happens with this defense. You had a bunch of players transfer out, and I think that was on purpose. I think they told them, there's the door. So out with the old, in with the new. Let's see if it makes a difference for North Carolina. But for week 1, I'm taking them. They're a 2.5-point favorite. I don't know if I'd want to give up the 2.5. The juice ain't that much different. If you're betting North Carolina on this game, I mean, it's minus 110 on the over under there, or excuse me, on the spread, and it's minus 135 on the money line. So, in my opinion, give them the 2.5 and take the minus 135 there, and you're not talking about a huge penalty for 3 points right there. You're basically buying 3 points, and not sacrificing a ton of percentage on your return there. So if you're betting North Carolina, I'd go money line. If you're betting South Carolina, I'd go money line. 2.5 is close. Anything else on that game, Mason?
Just real quick, Andre Green, sophomore wide receiver, is one who's on the second string there. I think you can get a lot of value out of him in any sort of draft lineup if he's available, if they do this game, which I'm sure they will. This is one of the bigger games of the weekend, but he's one that you may be able to get in the 4,000s, and I think that he will actually play a pretty good bit, and he's certainly talented enough to play, but I'm going to do a little bit more digging before I lock him in, but he's one that I've got an eye on for this season.